You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford. Might be half.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. The RTM will be convened on Wednesday, February 13, 2019, at 8 p.m. at the Branford Fire Headquarters, 45 North Main Street, to consider and act upon the following matters. Will everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Item number 1, roll call.
Okay. Representative Edelman.
Present.
Representative Alphone.
Here.
Representative Anderson. Here. Representative Black.
Yes.
Representative Brockett.
Here.
Representative Comey. Here. Representative Conklin.
Here.
Representative Diadamo.
Present.
Representative Dunbar.
Present.
Representative Everlith, present. Representative Flanagan, present. Representative Gordon. Here. Representative Healy. Representative Henschel, not here. Representative Ingraham.
Here.
Representative Jackson, not here. Representative Lawler.
Here.
Representative Leonard.
Here.
Representative Lombardi. Here. Representative Preet is not here. Representative Riccio. Representative Stepanek.
Here.
Representative Sullivan.
Here.
Representative Torelli. Representative Toohill.
Here.
Representative Walker.
Here.
And Representative Wells.
Here.
All right, for ex officios, we have First Selectman Cosgrove and Town Clerk Arpin, and we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. Item number 2, approval of the minutes of December 12th, 2018 meeting. There's a motion on the floor for approval.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved without exception. Item number 3, receptions of communications, reports of committees, and citizens' petitions. Any correspondence? I have a few, but do you have anything?
Just one letter from Cindy. Lombardi.
Cindy Lombardi?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already talked to her on that.
Okay,
So,
then
okay.
that's all.
Okay. I have a letter here addressed to me from John Hoferin and the town engineer. Dear Mr. Flanagan, enclosed, please find a revised floodplain management ordinance for approval by the RTM. The Connecticut State Building Code was originally revised and adopted to regulate a new flood zone, the coastal AE zone, and defined by FEMA. The revisions to the enclosed floodplain management ordinance mirror the regulations of the State Building Code and will allow the new regulations to be enforced by the town floodplain administrator. The edits have been reviewed by the State National Flood Insurance Program Coordinator and the town's Flood and Erosion Control Board. Therefore, I request you to make the attached edits to chapters 161 of the Branford Code. The changes are written in red and reflect the additions of the coastal AE zone. There is no other changes to the ordinance at this time. Please forward this to the Rules and Ordinance Committee. I will send this to the Rules and Ordinance Committee. Another letter from the First Selectman, James Cosgrove, to me, RTM moderator. At the Board of Selectmen meeting held on February 6, 2019, the board unanimously approved the request from Carrie P. Challenger, Housing Development Corporation, and the Branford Interfaith Housing Corporation to extend a tax abatement of real property taxes on properties located at 13-29 Rogers Street and 142-190 Ivy Street for an additional 10 years effective April 1, 2019, grantless as permitted by the Section 169-24 of the Code of the Town of Branford. Attached, please find copies of the complete corporation's agreement between the Branford Interface Housing Corporation and Carrie B. Chandler Housing Corporation and the Town of Branford, as well as the draft rider to the corporation agreement between the Branford Interfaith Housing Corporation and the Town of Branford, a draft rider to corporation between Carrie B. Chandler Housing Development Corporation and the Town of Branford. I will send this to the Administrative Services Committee. Town clerk this is an application on each one of our desks. We're coming up to the budget time. Please, if you could respond back to her how you would like the budget book in either electronic or printed form or both. It would help her when she's putting together our budgets coming up. Last piece I have is to make aware of an annual awards dinner to be held on February 21st, 2019, 5:30 p.m. at Amaranthi Sea Cliff. This is a silent auction dinner, and our animal shelter director is being honored that night. Representative Sullivan?
I have two things, actually, Mr. Moderator. I believe you also had a piece of correspondence from Representative Lombardi. I was hoping you could read that so people were aware of the request.
I discussed that with Representative Lombardi already, and she's going to get back to me with some statistics on it, and then I told her then I would respond to her about having Mr. Horn come to our meeting next month.
Okay. I think it was still to be considered as correspondence to the RTM, though, so I would say it would be appropriate to maybe read the letter as correspondence.
Do you have a copy of it? Because I don't have it with me. I received a letter from Cynthia Lombardi, and she's regarding to the RTM resolved that the moderator of the RTM invite Bill Horn to make an informal presentation to the members of the RTM and the public at 7 p.m. before the official start of the RTM meeting on March 13, 2019, to share some of his science data and projections of sea level rise along the Branford coastal in coming years. The location will be at the fire headquarters main meeting room. I did receive that, and I indicated to Representative Lombardi that I would respond back to her, possibility of having him come under other business, but I want to find out how long this presentation is going to be, and then I'll respond back to her.
That's fine. We can discuss it under other business tonight. right, thank you. I did have one other item.
Okay.
We had a couple of members from the Democratic Caucus resign from the RTM recently, so I just want to thank Dorothy Doknovich and Marianne Hall for their many years of service on the RTM, so maybe we could do a round of applause.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to add a couple comments to that.
Go ahead, Mr.
Representatives Doktovich, Representatives Hall, really two ladies that represented their districts extremely well. They've both been mentors to me since I've been on this body. Dottie, here and there, jumping in, but she never, neither one of them, held back. They would come up and let you know wherever you were, what was going on, and where they felt you should be, and they'd let you, and they'd also listen. So, bravo, ladies. We're going to miss you.
Okay, that's all I have now, okay? Okay, item number 4, to consider and if appropriate, create an ordinance for tax exemption for handicap-equipped vehicles. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This proposed ordinance creates a tax exemption for handicap-equipped vehicles. It would exempt the entire vehicle and not just the modifications on the vehicle. After discussion, the committee voted unanimously to approve the ordinance in committee. However, in recent discussions and in the past week or so, some concerns have come up about the language, and I'm going to now ask that we vote to re-refer, or I'm going to motion that we re-refer this matter to again take a look at the language in hopes of passing it in the near future. And I'll apologize to the folks who are here for that matter this evening, but thank you. And that's a motion to re-refer.
Your
I would
motion is-
second that motion.
There's a second
Mr.
on
Moderator.
motion on the floor to re-refer. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is re-referred. Item number 5, to review Branford's Town Dock Ordinance and if appropriate, revise time limits and rights of appeal. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a review and a possible revision of the town's dock ordinance relative to time limits and rights of appeal. After discussion, once again, the committee voted to re-refer for continued consideration, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to re-refer the item. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is re-referred. Item number 6, to consider, review, and propose changes to the Town of Branford noise ordinance. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a review of Branford's noise ordinance and specifically how it pertains to excessive dog barking in residential neighborhoods. This matter has been on the R&O agenda since September. At our most recent meeting, the committee agreed to send a letter to the Animal Control Commission asking that it review its guidelines relative to time duration of dog barking. But the committee also voted unanimously to take no action on any revision of our ordinances. And I would put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to take no action on this item. Any discussion? Representative Ricchio.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So this has been a topic that's been kicked around for about 8 years. And I'm not going to get into the whole history of it tonight, but I am going to recommend that we re-refer this until the animal control, the dog, whatever they call it, warden, can come back with a report. Mr. Leonard, we asked him to come back with some information, and I think we should at least wait. We've been waiting for years on this. Let's wait another month, maybe 2 months, to have them come back with a report. I personally have been dealing with this situation I have neighbors that have been dealing with the situation. Other towns have addressed this excessive dog barking situation by referring in their town codes, like for example Guilford, they're basically referring to the state ordinance that has been created. So, you know, it's my opinion that this excessive dog barking problem, which exists in the town, is just kind of been swept under the rug by numerous administrations. And no one wants to deal with it. So what I'm asking is, and I'd like to make a motion that we re-refer this for next month, or just re-refer it until the dog warden can come back with a report.
So you're making a motion to amend the motion by Representative Leonard?
Yes.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. With all due respect, there's been a problem right in the Valley Brook Road South part of town for many years. And we have with us tonight Mr. Vinny Cirillo, who lives up there. And he, as well as Representative Riccio, have been influenced by this for 8 years, I believe it's been. Now, the RNO did a great job. They contacted our dog warden, and she said the policy now that they have is that after 45 minutes of continuous dog barking, they will issue some kind of,
Infraction?
yeah, thank you. Yes, they would issue some kind of an infraction after 45 minutes of continuous barking. That's the current policy, I believe, of the Animal Control Commission. That's too long. And, you know, all these questions get opened up about that. I mean, if the person has, if it's going on in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you call the dog warden, and she comes up at 2:20, and, I mean, she has to wait there for 45 minutes? I mean, if the dog stops barking at 2:30 in the morning, if it stops after 35 minutes, then she can't issue anything, she can't, I mean, it seems that the common thing to do would be to cut that time down to maybe 3 minutes or 5 minutes, not 45 minutes. I mean, that's the way it is now. It's been on the books with the Animal Control Commission all these years, and it doesn't work. So I think that, first of all, I believe that the RNO should contact the Animal Control Commission and ask them if they would please change the time. And then, after we get their response, then, at that time, the RTM can take action. But, I mean, to have it taken off the call tonight, I believe it's too early. Thank you.
Representative Dunbar, question for you. If this they indicate is an infraction, but does the dog warden have the power to issue
For dog violations, yes.
how about for noise ordinance?
That's part of the...
Go ahead, Rep.
The noise is the dog.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that take place. The gentleman there and I have spoken in the past, so this isn't new. There have been citations, infractions issued. They were sent over to the court. The court, most of the time, from what I'm hearing, or all the time, threw them out. What you're talking about right now is not part of the ordinance. It's part of their guidelines. Their guidelines aren't in the ordinance. It has nothing to do with what action they want to take place. Now, if you want the dog warden to change the way she operates, all you have to do is speak to the selectman because she works for that office. Now, I'm sure he would get guidance from whoever, but this is not part of the ordinance that we're discussing tonight. A re-referral to hold that up for that part has nothing to do with what you're looking for. Her guidelines, she based on information she took from the state and what have you. If you want those changed, seeing as her guideline, I got it, she can just change it. But it has nothing to do with the ordinance.
Any further discussion on the item? Representative Ricchio.
Yeah, where I'm coming from is, this is I've seen police in our neighborhood at 1 in the afternoon, 5 in the afternoon, 3 in the morning. It's it's interfering with police business, in my opinion. They're getting pulled away from, other potential, all due respect to Mr. Cirillo, but the bigger problems. And the police have said to me, he said, Mr. Ricchio, we don't know what to do. Numerous policemen have told me they don't know what to do. So I'm saying, if they don't know what to do, what do we do? So that's why I'm bringing up here. Everyone wants to just shovel this under the rug. And it's going on and on and on. And it's a drain. It's a drain on our resources. You're taking law enforcement people away from other potential, maybe bigger problems.
Representative Dunbar.
Seeing I'm one of them, and I've spoken to the gentleman numerous times, and I wish there was maybe a better solution, but I'll go back to what I said earlier. It has nothing to do with the ordinance as is. You're talking about the actions of the dog warden. First of all, I don't recall any recent activity up in the area, so you'll have to let me know what that was and who the officers were, and I can speak to them, see if I can help them out. The other part is that this has made it all way past us to court, where there was a lawsuit. I believe at one point the town was involved in the lawsuit. I don't know of any outcome. So I'll get back to what I said earlier. It's not the ordinance. It's the implementation of rules, maybe through the dog warden. She doesn't need to come here and give us a report, because if there's nothing in the ordinance to be changed, why prolong this? If some action needs to be taken, by all means, maybe there should be a sit-down with yourself, the first selectman, maybe a representative from the state, seeing a lot of the animal control stuff comes from there. But I don't believe it has anything to do with this ordinance tonight.
Any further discussion on the item? Gentleman in the back would like to speak. Will you come up here and identify yourself? No, over here.
Kind of a last minute thing for me. I wasn't prepared to come here tonight.
All right, would you identify yourself and your address?
I'm sorry. Vincent Cirillo, 28 Valley Brook Road South. 8 years ago, I started off, good relationship with my neighbor, and she decided that she had 2 dogs. She decided to have 4. From the 4, she decided to have 8. Okay, and the noise, I'm going to be quite honest, was enough to drive me nuts. It was nonstop. And when I asked her husband, if they can do something about it, she took a completely different attitude towards me. Even though we were neighbors, close friends, she decided that I wasn't going to tell her what her dogs were going to do. And I said, it's really bothering me. So she stepped it up where it was to the point, me and my family, to get away from the noise, we have to leave our house. Now, if you think that's fair, that I'm a taxpayer, okay? And in order for me to get quality of life, I have to find it in a car ride to get away from the noise. And I decided to go to the town when the barking was at 3:30 in the morning. My wife has an apnea problem of sleeping, okay? The dogs are out there almost every night back then. I went to the dog warden, basically gave me no respect whatsoever, was completely against everything I said to her, and in turn asking her, what are my rights? Well, she told me what the dog's rights were. She told me 45 minutes of straight barking, stop for 5, and continue the entire day. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I don't think that gives me many minutes of peace and quiet in my $8,600 a year tax piece of land. Okay? It is enough to send me to 3 years of therapy, which cost me almost $75,000, okay, to deal with this problem, because I have a dog warden that doesn't want to know a thing, okay? She made rumors, said I went, and she just doesn't like me. Yes, I do not foster dogs like my neighbor does. So, you know what? The feather in my neighbor's cap means nothing to me. I'm the one that suffers, okay? My family. I had an 84-year-old mother that lived with me for 22 years, moved out at 85 to get peace and quiet. If anybody here takes care of their parents, okay, you know what that means to see your mother go on her own at that age. And I don't think it's fair. All I did was ask the town. I went to town hall. I saw what their rules are. Excessive dog barking, perfect. Number of dogs, perfect. Everything's there. Well, nothing happened because the dog warden didn't want anything to happen. She totally made up stories about me. Said I went into her office and threw everything on the floor in her office, which is not true. She did everything to go against me, okay, and praise my neighbor. Now, I have a right to go and make a complaint in this town to the right people. Well, after me going to her nonstop, she told me, it's out of my hands now, it's a police matter. Well, I went to the police, and just like Mark Riccio said, the police don't know what to do, very sympathetic, but don't know what to do. And it left me in the same position I'm on to suffer. Okay, so I went under the guidance of I don't know his name, a police officer told me to put a video camera with audio in, which I did. And I've captured thousands of hours of barking, 400 hours after 2 o'clock in the morning. Okay, and it's just not fair for me and my family. Yes, I tried to sue the town. Because you know what? The town was driving me nuts, and my family was suffering. And because of that, we're still at this point where we want to get rid of this. I've been going through this with the rules and ordinance and want to wash it away. No, Mr. Cirillo, you need to suffer some more. Doesn't matter. You want to suffer some more. Well, that's what we're going to provide for you, more suffering. And I told the first selectman, are you trying to get me out of this town? If you are, you're on the way to it. I love this town. Okay, all I want to do is get my services, what I pay for. I'm not paying for somebody to tell me they're not going to come to my house. 8 years, the dog warden didn't come to my house one time. Not once. I mean, $8,600 a year, and I can't get a public service to come to my house. Now, you want to sweep that under a rug? I guess I will be going to a real estate agent and finding a new home.
All right, we thank you very much. Any further discussion on this motion to amend the R&O? Motion to amend, to make it re-referable? Okay, all those in favor of Representative Riccio's motion to amend the motion by the Rules and Ordinance Committee to make this item re-referred instead of take no action, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
let's do a show of hands. All those in favor of Representative Riccio's motion, show of hands. 8. All those against? 6, 7. Motion is defeated. Okay, this item now is,
Mr. Moderator?
What's that?
Vote on the initial referral? He's trying to.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that now. Yeah, all right.
Too quick.
I thought he was moving on to the next piece.
So it's taken on the initial, we're going to vote on the initial motion to take no action on this item. It's been seconded. All those in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right, this item is take no action. This item will come off the call. Item number 7, to consider and if appropriate, create an ordinance restricting the use of plastic bags. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Item number 7 is a proposed ordinance to restrict the use of plastic bags. Discussion on this matter is continuing. It will continue probably for another couple of meetings, and the committee voted to re-refer unanimously.
Any discussion on the motion to re-refer this item? If not, all those in favor of re-referral signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This item is re-referred. Item number 8, to consider and if appropriate, draft and approve an ordinance banning the purchase, sale, and distribution of plastic helium balloons in Branford. Representative Leonard.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is a proposal to ban the purchase, sale, and/or distribution of helium balloons in Branford. After discussion of a related state statute, the committee voted unanimously to take no action on a proposed ordinance, and I put that in the form of a motion.
Motion on the floor to take no action on this item. Any discussion on that? Representative Sullivan?
I just have a quick piece of discussion. We did vote to take no action because there's existing statutes that forbid anything more than a 10 balloon release, but there's actually legislation proposed in Hartford this year, HB 5314, which would change that from 10 balloons to 0 balloons. So if you're in favor of eliminating balloon releases, there may be somebody in this room that you could make your opinions known to. But I would ask you to encourage people to support that House bill and also to support taking no action at the town level.
Okay. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor of having to take no action on this item signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This item is removed from the call. Item number 9, to consider and if appropriate, approve a resolution pertaining to the flying of the American flag and the POW MIA flags at public buildings. Representative Bracken.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. At the last RTM meeting, I introduced a letter. It was decided after the letter that a resolution would be drafted. The resolution is in the package that was emailed to all of the RTM representatives. Subsequent to last meeting, the Majority Leader Ray and Dennis participated with myself in drafting a resolution, and it's before you today. And essentially, the resolution would require the flying of any public building that flies an American flag would also fly the MIA POW flag along with the American flag that was adopted by the federal government in 1972. So I would ask my colleagues to adopt this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Second on the resolution? Yes. Would you like to, Representative Ingraham, will you read the resolution, please?
Sure. Resolution. Whereas the town of Branford supports all veterans. Whereas the town of Branford recognizes the sacrifices made by our veterans, where many veterans have become prisoners of war. Whereas many veterans are still unaccounted for and classified as missing in action. Whereas the United States of America officially adopted the POW MIA flag. Whereas displaying the POW MIA flag will serve as a reminder for the public awareness, and whereas displaying the POW MIA flag will serve as a symbol to honor and never forget our prisoners of war and missing in action. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the town of Branford will never forget our service, your service and sacrifice to our country, and that all efforts to find, bring you home will continue. Be it further resolved, the town of Branford, through its duly elected representatives, strongly encourages all public entities that fly the American flag to properly fly the POW and MIA flag with it.
Everybody heard the resolution? Everybody have a motion to approve by the RTM?
Make the motion. I'll second.
And seconded by, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Just for a point of information too, that this resolution is very important to the American Legion in Branford. Part of our preamble as we close our meetings is to never stop fighting for the encounterment of the POW MIAs. As a Vietnam veteran myself, we lost 58,000 men and soldiers over there in Vietnam. We still don't know how many are still there as POWs or MIAs. So this is very important. Hopefully we'll get a lot of the town government buildings and other establishments to fly the POW flag alongside the American flag. Thank you for your support on this. Okay, item number 10, to consider and if appropriate, approve the reappointments of Dagmar Ridgway and Arthur Pappas to the Greater New Haven Transit District, term to expire December 31st, 2023. Representative Alphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Admin Services did not meet in January, so I'd like to make a motion to waive Town Rule 4.4.1.
Second.
Motion on the floor to waive Rule 441 has been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item carries. Representative Alphone.
Thank you. I'd also like to make a motion to approve both reappointments. Both Dagmar and Arthur have been on the board for numerous years and have served the town well on the Greater New Haven Transit District.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second by Representative Sullivan? Any discussion?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, is there any information about what these members do on that we're appointing them to?
Yes, they're on the board of directors. Each municipality is, based on their population, has representatives that are on the board of directors that meet 4 times a year, and they are the policy-making authority for the Greater New Haven Transit District.
Thanks.
No problem.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to approve the reappointment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Item number 11, to consider and appropriate, approve a request from the Board of Fire Commissioners for the following budget transfer from fiscal 2019 from regular wages and salaries, $60,000, to overtime, $30,000, to sick pay, $15,000, and to education incentive, $15,000, for a total of $60,000. Representative Conklin.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Public Service Commission attempted to meet last Thursday, but did not have a quorum, so this was not discussed. But it's fairly straightforward, so I would make a motion to
441.
Waive.
441.
Waiving, yes, thank you. 441, so that we can address this evening.
Second. Oh.
Any discussion on the waiving of Rule 441? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is waived.
Thank you. This $60,000 transfer is within the current year's budget, and it will just balance the accounts for hopefully the rest of the year. There's no guarantee of that, obviously, but the department ran short early on 4 firefighters, and we're required by statute to replace 1 for 1, and therefore regular wages has some money in it, but overtime Sick pay does not, and it moves the 60,000 from your regular wages and salary. So I move that we accept this transfer.
Second.
Second, Representative Sullivan, second. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the transfer signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Item 12, to consider and if appropriate, approve a supplemental transfer request from the Finance Director on behalf of the Board of Fire Commissioners for an additional $175,000 to initiate and complete the renovation of the Indian Neck Firehouse. From general fund transfer from contingency, $175,000, to transfer out of municipal funds, $175,000. Corresponding fund transfer from transfer in Indian Neck Firehouse, $175,000, to construction, $175,000. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ways and Means had a special meeting last Thursday and heard this matter. What this is the bids for the firehouse have come in higher than was estimated. This $175,000 will cover the increased costs while preserving a contingency amount of about $90,000. The fire chief and commissioner are here if people have specific questions, but basically we're trying to get the construction started this spring so they can award the bids tomorrow if we approve it tonight and meet this construction season. Basically, they did think that they got a good spread of bids. They got 7 or more bids in most of the categories with a good spread of costs, so it doesn't seem like, we only got 2 bids, maybe there's somebody else out there. So given the cost escalation in the construction industry, the feeling was that we should go forward with this at the present price. So the vote from the committee was 3 in favor, 1 abstention, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
Second, Mr.
Doesn't need it.
Any discussion on the motion? Representative Sullivan.
Just for fun and because I know that Representative Black has the answer, through you, Mr. Moderator, if this transfer goes through, what is the balance of the contingency fund?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, since Representative Sullivan was at our meeting and I got this answer out of the finance director, predicting that he might ask it, the answer is $747,329. Thank you.
That does match my notes.
Any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item carries. Item 13, to consider and if appropriate, approve the creation of a coastal resilience fund with the appropriation of $1 million for the undesignated fund balance as per the following transfer. From general fund balance, $1 million, and new account transfer out coastal resilience fund, $1 million, and coastal resilience from new account transfer in $1 million, and new account capital improvements, $1 million. Representative Black.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, we heard this last week. The vote was 3 in favor, 1 opposed. There were some changes made to this as it came through the Board of Finance. Rather than capital improvements, the line should be contingency, and there's also a resolution that we have to pass along with this. The resolution would be that the RTM increases the appropriations for fiscal year 2019 general fund budget from $112,080,371 to $113,080,371. This increase will be funded through an appropriation from fund balance and will be used to create a coastal resiliency fund. The reason for the change from the capital improvements to the contingency was to make clear that any drawing out of this fund would have to go through both the Board of Finance and the RTM before any projects were approved and funded, that it wouldn't be up to the discretion of the Board of Selectmen or anyone else. What this really is coming from is a feeling coming out of the planning and zoning POCD process that we don't know what our costs may be for hardening our infrastructure, modifying our infrastructure due to rising oceans, but perhaps we ought to start saving something for it now. There's also a bill that's been forwarded from our finance director to state legislature that I hope our new representative will push and get through. And that's really a lot of what the impetus for this is currently, if we leave this money in undesignated fund balance, there's restrictions on where we can invest it, and we're probably only going to earn 2%. Now, there's a chance that Jim Finch has looked at, even without that legislation, we may be able to up that to 3 or 4% by investing up to 30% in equities. I think Jim's asked for the ability to create a trust that would bounce that equities number up higher. The idea is to start putting aside money for this as we would for a pension or some other future liability. And Selectman Cosgrove is here if others have further questions on this matter. But I'll put the committee's action in the form of a motion with the amendment. It did come through our committee with that contingency and with the amendment of adding the resolution on as well. Thank you.
And your motion is to approve?
Motion is to approve.
Yeah. Any discussion on the motion? Representative Sullivan?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I rise to support this creation of this fund. I'm glad that the town is taking action to address sea level rise issues that are facing our community. This is a proactive and protective measure to address these risks. These funds will allow us to act by protecting our infrastructure, our natural resources, and also our neighbors and their homes. So I'm glad this fund is being created, and I understand the vote before us is a way to start the fund and build up over the next 20 years and more. But if I were really pushing for starting this fund, I would have preferred to see a larger seed amount, maybe of $2.5 million instead of $1 million. That's because I know that sea level rise is a threat right now, today, not just something in the future. And the Town of Branford Resilience Plan confirms this with many projects that are listed with more immediate time frames for starting work of 2018, 2020, 2025. Things like flood-proofing the wastewater treatment plant and putting a floodgate at the railroad overpass. And so it's this immediacy of the issue and the cost of many of these projects that I wish that this was a larger fund to start with. Just as a note, the floodgates near the Meadow Street Railroad crossing, estimated costs are around $313,000. So something that would eat up this $1 million pretty quickly. So I would prefer to have a larger amount of money because that $313,000 is just for one project. But here on the RTM, we don't have the authority to dig into revenue, to increase the revenue side of our budget, so we can't actually increase the dollar amount. With all that being said, I do support creating this fund now to get something started. I just wish we were starting bigger, and I will be supporting this motion on the floor. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Representative Toohill.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Just a question to Representative Black. After we make this transfer, how much will be left, sir, in the fund balance?
Through you, Mr. Moderator, I'm not sure. It was about 23 million last number that I heard.
Possibly the Selectman Cosgrove can answer that question?
I was just going to say, our audit isn't complete. You could probably expect our audit to be completed within the next month, and we'd have that number. Certainly, this body was part of the proactive step we took during the May 17 budget process. So we had accounted for some some loss in state revenue as well as some expenses that were going to happen that didn't actually occur, although those threats continue to come out of Hartford. But we are in a, we expect to be in a pretty strong position. Therefore, the finance director felt comfortable taking $1 million out and starting this fund. I just want to make one comment to Representative Sullivan's comment. This fund isn't intended to be the sole funding source for projects. This is to be another means to leverage funds that may happen or may be available. So, you know, I don't think $1 million is insignificant. I think the true liabilities are still yet to be determined. I think it's a start. However, I do recognize, and I think you'll agree, and many members who have supported this, that it's not just going to be solely a $1 million contribution, that we will have to make contributions probably on an annual basis.
Okay, Representative Sullivan?
Yeah, just to respond to that really quickly, Jim Finch did comment at Ways and Means that there would be annual contributions coming into this fund, so I do appreciate that as well.
Any further discussion on the item? Representative Stepanek?
Oh, can I please? Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Unlike Representative Sullivan, I'm standing to oppose this. Maybe if it changed its name, and it was the history of this. When I hear the words Coastal Resiliency Trust Fund, you guys got to all know, you probably do know this, that in almost 100 countries in the world, there are coastal resiliency trust funds. There's not a single dictatorship in the world that does not have a coastal resiliency trust fund. All over the world, money pours into these trust funds from gullible people who have been just rendered hysterical by worry of their coastlines tumbling into the ocean. They put billions of dollars. Indonesia, for example, gets many billions of dollars. Turkey, Venezuela, Egypt, hundreds of countries. And also, all of these countries that are so corrupt, they're the ones on the steering committee of the IPCC in Geneva that makes the decision who gets this money. Now, where does this money go? It goes into real estate in Europe primarily. Tell me how buying a chateau on Lake Geneva affects the world's temperature 50 years from now. Anyway, you figure it out. It saddens me that this fraudulent movement of global warming has infected our town. I'm not against the trust fund itself. I think it's very prudent. I think putting money into a trust fund which earns a much higher interest rate. Anything can happen in our town. We do have sewage problems related to the coast. We have, you know, the cliff above Starbucks could collapse. There's a number of reasons why it'd be prudent to have this. But we have to understand the genesis of this. This is a product of a historical movement that is absolutely fraudulent. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Item carries. And thank you, Selectman Cosgrove, for being proactive on this. Item 14, any other business to come before the RTM? If
Mr.
not,
Moderator, do you want to discuss Representative Lombardi's proposal any now, or do you want to?
no, I'm waiting for her. She's going to give me some data before I make my decision on it.
Okay. My understanding was it was to, the objective was to have a presentation of roughly an hour in this room prior to our full RTM meeting.
Right, and I decided that we wouldn't do that because it would interfere with our caucuses. I would possibly be open to the fact of under other business, but I wanted her to get the timeline from Bill Horn because, you know, to see how long it's going to take for him to get up and talk on this item, and then based on that, I will respond back to Representative Sloan.
Okay, so just to understand, so your thought was to pick it up as an item under other business.
If I pick it up, it'll be under business, because if we do...
Okay, I'm just trying to understand.
We both caucused before, there's no way we're going to be able, because I can't tell you how Mark's meeting is going to be. We may have a long, lengthy agenda, so we need a caucus and discuss our agenda first. Okay, since there isn't any other business, Representative Torelli, would you like to give the motion to adjourn? Okay, second? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.